Hey everyone. So as of this week, there is no longer any psychedelic company with at least $1 billion in market cap. Not even 850 million. That's how hard the industry has been hit, especially over the past 3 months. Is this right? Does this seem fair? What's next? And is this a good entry point? Find out now in this week's Traded Black podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Trade to Black podcast, a division of the Dales Media Group. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Before we get into today's podcast, all views on this podcast and the guests on this podcast are purely opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or our guests as investment advice. The views on this podcast are solely intended to be informational and are not investment advice. Joining me as usual, millennial entrepreneur and contributor to the Dales Report, Anthony Varrell. Anthony, how's the week?
It's good. I mean, woke up this morning to the crypto market crashing, but I mean, it's divisional playoff weekend. Plus, get to hit the course tomorrow, and then just enjoy the rest of the weekend. So yeah, I'm excited.
Remind me
to
go
on the game, Anthony. You going to the Tampa Bay game?
To be honest, I thought about it. I wanted to go, but because I want to see the Rams just beat their ass. But I'm not. I think I might be heading over to Tampa next weekend.
Are we going to see
the Rams? You want to see the Rams win?
Oh yeah, I don't like Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady, I don't like Tom Brady. I don't act like I like Tom Brady. I mean, I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy through and through. Tom's the GOAT. I respect what he's done. I just don't like him.
Rams are winning that game.
Oh yeah,
Rams are winning that
game. Dude, I slammed the
that
Bengals. I slammed the Bengals. I slammed the Rams and the Bills.
Bengals are winning. They're beating the Titans.
Yeah.
The Bills are beating the Chiefs.
And the
Bills are beating the Chiefs.
I got 750 on each game. I already put the bets in.
Bucks. Packers are winning by 2 touchdowns over San Francisco.
Yeah, to be honest, that's the only game I'm not touching, and it's because I got absolutely torched last week by the Cowboys, and I don't want to bet against the 49ers again. I think the Packers are going to smoke them, but it wouldn't surprise me if San Fran goes in there and comes out with a W somehow, and they're just the Cinderella story of this playoffs.
They barely beat. Like their coaching was just as bad as what Dallas's was last week. I thought I was watching week 2 of the preseason.
Yeah,
the amount of penalty flags yesterday. Last week. It was so.
I mean, they won without Bosa, and a banged up and a couple other banged up players. So I mean, yeah, that's the only game I'm not touching. But Bengals, Rams, Bills, I'm high on.
Ben, what's going on, brother?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm just watching the cannabis crash in real time, and psychedelics sort of drip down. But things are getting interesting, and we're going to talk about it in a sec. But doing well otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting times. We're getting just about that point. If you haven't gotten in, what entry points this would be. So let's begin with cannabis and MSOS getting smashed again, which was down over 10%, no end in sight. It's getting to be that time, as I said, Ben. Are we looking at entry points now? Is there a reason behind all this? Forget about what's going on, but most importantly, as I said, are these entry points you're looking at getting in right now?
I think the entry points are getting pretty close. We did a segment about 3 or 4 weeks ago where we said it dropped about 20 to 25% from the 26th level. It was trading around at that time, that we would probably go all in. And I think now is getting around that time where if you haven't initiated position, now is a super time to do so. What I'm personally eyeing is the all-time low in MSOs, which is 2045. So I think that's going to be sort of the climactic point where a lot of stops are positioned, both at that level in and around, probably up down to 20 or so. So if you're looking for like a volume climax, that would be a good point in which to stake a position. If you're looking to get in, I think there's so much value there, right? And of course, it's being held back by the regulatory uncertainties and a little margin compression, things we've talked about before. But I think, it's getting to a point where it's just getting so low that, it's a really good long-term hold at that level.
So I'm asking you flat out, is this an entry point?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
I will be getting in personally around that level.
Okay. Anthony, what are you thinking?
I mean, to be honest, I'm getting my ass handed to me on the calls that I've been making around the cannabis sector. I'm still sitting on a pretty hefty position of January 2023, $30 leaps on MSOS that I've been adding to all the way down. I haven't redeployed any of the capital on the fund side of my business back into any of the cannabis names yet. It is looking it's looking like a good opportunity, but I mean, I thought it was a good opportunity a month ago, and then we took that leg down, and we're here. I mean, there's fundamental stories that are maturing in the space. Trulieve just signed a deal with Connected to bring them from California to Florida. I think that's defensive. That Cookies and Jungle Boys are going to be launching in Trulieve's backyard here soon in Florida, so they're bringing in a California brand with quality products, and that aligns with that consumer brand strategy. And then, I mean, that honestly makes me think that Trulieve is going to down the road acquire Connected in California, and then they can take that Connected brand and actually seed all of the assets that they purchase from Harvest. So, I mean, I'm seeing it as the tip of the iceberg on a much bigger picture in Trulieve, which is why I'm really looking at their stock right now. I mean, I've added a little bit on my Cureleaf position, and I continue to watch Verano. I'm priming the pump to get into tier ones. My Leap position, I'm down like 50% on right now, but I mean, I've got plenty of time in there. I'm just praying that there isn't some event in the broad market. And when you're looking at what Kramer and the CNBC analysts are all saying, they're thinking that there's a local bottom in here that's coming in here shortly. I mean, you've seen the air on a lot of these stay-at-home stocks with like Netflix and Teladoc and Peloton. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that they're 70% off the highs. The bubble popped. We're just floating on our way down right now. So I mean, if we hit a bottom in the Nasdaq and in the overall market, I am confident that we go to the upside. If we take another leg down, I don't know where the fuck we're going to wind up in the next couple of months. But I mean, it couldn't look any more attractive than it does right now.
No kidding. Yeah, entry point's unbelievable right now, I think.
Yeah.
This week actually marked 1 full year that President Biden entered into the Oval Office, and he legalized marijuana. We're seeing all-time highs, and everybody's going great until he forgot his name and forgot every single promise in the fucking cannabis industry. You're looking at me like, what are you talking about?
When you said legalized, I was like, what world are you living in?
We're
not in the metaverse
yet. Toy Hutchinson, he's former senior advisor in cannabis to Illinois Governor J.P. Pritzker, and current CEO and president of the Marijuana Policy Project, said that whether it's full legalization in 2022 or simply the ability for a cannabis business getting a bank or get a tax relief, we expect to see some sort of cannabis reform, because that is exactly what we were told. So last week, Jason, when Jason Spatafora was with us, he mentioned how more and more Republicans are warming up to the idea of legalizing cannabis as we approach midterms later this year. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I actually do. The Republicans, if there's anything that's going to actually get them votes in 2022 and then in 2024, they're pro-cannabis and they're pro-crypto. I mean, I could put all of my shit aside. If the Republicans want to run on those two notions, they got me. I mean, they're going at it. They're not only shifting the norm. I mean, they're listening. That just keys into that they're listening to what people want. I mean, cannabis could not be any more socially acceptable in this country as it is right now. I think that I think that they're actually that they are being genuine when they say that they want to see cannabis move forward. And I mean, maybe they've turned a page, because I mean, they need to do something that is as radical as getting behind cannabis or getting behind crypto to start to win voters back. Because I mean, the liberals and the Dems in this country have pretty much turned off 90% of their base. And they're just looking for a reason outside of the Dems, which could be cannabis.
Ben, does that shock you, just with how the Dems have responded towards this, with so many empty promises in such a crucial time as well, right?
To be honest, it doesn't really shock me at all. You know, obviously a lot of politicians make promises and they don't follow through. Politicians are sort of known for that. And, you know, with Joe Biden's history of sort of, you know, coming out against cannabis, like in the 70s and 80s and all that kind of thing. He's never been a pro-cannabis guy. So a lot of what he was saying beforehand was, in the policy statement that he made before the election, it struck me as disingenuine. It struck me as trying to play to a base. Bottom line, it doesn't surprise me. Now, I think if you're a cannabis investor, that sort of thing is out of play right now. I think probably the best you can hope for is expungements and safe banking. And the good news is if you get that, I think the market is a good, it could go higher 50, 60, 70% from here. If we just get those initial steps in. So that's sort of the good news in all this. You don't need full legalization to get the market back to what fair value should be. You just need to get get safe banking.
I don't want
get the ball
legalization.
moving.
Yeah, give me safe.
You don't want legalization.
No, we don't need it.
Yeah,
just give us safe. Give us safe and take out 280. We're going 80% higher. I mean, those two simple things.
Yeah.
That's it.
One of the things I know that we talked about a little bit last week as well, it is so important for companies to be transparent with their shareholders right now. And when you beyond, who are some of the companies that you like that are doing a good job that do that, Anthony?
That are transparent?
Yeah.
No one does it better than Boris Jordan. No one.
Yeah.
That man is in social media groups. He's on Twitter Spaces. He's in the news. He's on CNBC. Boris Jordan does it the best. I would say behind that, Ben Kovler does a hell of a job doing that. Kim Rivers does a hell of a job doing that. I mean, I couldn't really tell you who's out there pounding the table for Cresco. They're not really in the news. AYR and Verano, the same. But Boris Jordan, Kim Rivers, Ben Kovler. I mean, you couldn't want any better spokespeople for the U.S. cannabis industry than those three, and I think they do an amazing job doing it. But I would put Boris at the highest. He's in with the institutions, he's in with the retail guys, and he just says it how it is. And I mean, like I've said before on the show, as far as I'm concerned, he's the best steward of capital in the cannabis industry.
Yeah, that's so important.
I'd agree with all that. The same people that Anthony said, they're the most visible CEOs and executives in the market. The one thing that I do not want to hear anymore is when these CEOs come out and say, we don't need federal regulatory action to move forward as a sector. That is true insofar as they're building moats and creating their own market share in these individual limited license states. I get that.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely, you need the federal regulatory front to move forward to get things like 280E off the on the radar and get that changed and to get to move markets forward. So I don't like the fact that they minimize that a little bit. It seems to come out in some of these interviews. Kim Rivers was on Yahoo a couple of weeks ago and saying that, and I don't believe that. But otherwise, they do a very good job at messaging their company and messaging to their shareholders. I would agree.
Why do you think they do that?
I mean, they have to. I mean,
Why though? Why do they have to?
What do you mean? Let's call a spade here. I mean, the CEO's job is literally to get you not to sell your stock. It's to talk you into buying shares of the company. Like once you get into this unicorn status or the Fortune 500, I mean, the CEO's let's be honest, the CEO's not doing shit on a daily basis. They've got one job: keep the shareholders happy, make sure that you're not selling your stock, and make sure that the other guy next to you is buying their stock. That's it.
But what happens if they painted the picture as to what they're already achieving, and then at the same time too wanting and needing that change and how much more lucrative the business could be?
I mean, I think they're right. I completely agree with Ben in the notion of what they're saying really shouldn't be said. But at the same time, they are right in the assertion that no change is not going to hinder their business, and the fundamentals are still growing. Now, from a capital markets perspective, it's completely false. We're not going anywhere until there's some regulatory paradigm shift in this country. And I mean, they should be saying it with certain caveats and nuances. But I mean, they're saying that narrative. I mean, they are correct to a degree. I mean, the fundamentals in their businesses are improving. Their market shares are improving, and that's in lack of regulatory loosening.
Yeah. All right, Eric Adams, CEO of InMed Pharmaceuticals, joins us for our guest of the week here on the Trade to Black podcast. Eric, great to have you on. How are things?
Great. Nice to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, we wanted to have you on because, look at this whole cannabis industry right now from a pure fundamental standpoint. It's just everything looks to be heading in the right direction. I know flower gets a lot of attention right now, but cannabinoids is something that we wanted to cover off this week as well, and the true growth potential. But before we get into that, when you look at the industry as a whole, from an investment standpoint, a lot of people frustrated right now. What's your take on everything, and what do you anticipate over the next 12 months as we dawn on a new year?
Yeah, my take is I'm incredibly frustrated as well, not only as the CEO of a pharma company that has not only drug development, but also, is launching products into the health and wellness space. But as an investor, I mean, I'm hugely frustrated as well. But, I think, people can argue whether or not the markets have hit bottom. I think we suffer in particular because we're not only cannabis related, which is really seeing a down year and a down period, but also biotech, and biotechs are at the rock bottom right now.
I know.
So, from an investment standpoint, this is, for me personally, it's a good time to start deploying capital. But it's been a tough year, a tough ride. But the fundamentals are all there. Like you said, things are really burgeoning. I don't follow the flower market, very closely. I'm more of a biotech guy, but that seems to be growing. The health and wellness space seems to be growing, and we're making strong progress on our drug development. So I think everything's in place for a nice rebound. But I don't have a very good crystal ball apparently. Otherwise,
no, I hear you.
Working for a living.
Entry points, though. Wow, I can't imagine people getting in right now. But, you talked about fundamentals. According to the December 2021 Grandview Research Report, the retail market for rare cannabinoids is expected to reach $26 billion over the next 5 years, with the forecasted compounded annual growth of 20% during that same time period. So as much as the industry continues to be hit hard from an investment standpoint, what can you share about the cannabinoids industry and the huge growth opportunity that lies ahead, not only over the next, few months, but over the next 5 years?
Yeah, well, everyone's familiar with CBD, which is one specific cannabinoid that can be isolated from the plant. And it's really inexpensive right now. And people have reached out to try and use it in a number of different health and wellness products, as well as pharmaceuticals. So Epidiolex from GW Pharma is going to be $1 billion product, right? So clearly CBD has a very broad spectrum of activity, but it's probably, people have pushed it too far. I mean, you see CBD products and all kinds of things making claims that I think they don't have any business making. So but people are sparking to the cannabinoids. They see the success of CBD. They want to explore, what are the health benefits of these other ones? They've just not been able to access them because of their high cost. Like, no one's going to buy a tincture that's, $400 for, 5 ml. So being able to bring these rare cannabinoids to the marketplace at a, relatively approachable price has been really key. And that's what our Bay Medica subsidiary is doing, is they're launching these new cannabinoids at a relatively low cost relative to where they have been, and allowing people to now look at these other cannabinoids, which, from a historical perspective, have traditionally been pretty safe. And secondly, they have a broad range of activity. Maybe not as broad as everyone had hoped for with CBD, but now you have all these other ones that have different mechanisms of action, and people are interested in finding out where their place is in the health and wellness market. So that's all opening up right now. Certainly, I think it's going to continue to grow considerably over the next little while. Is it going to be 10 billion, 50 billion? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows at this point. But I think they've seen what's happened with CBD, and they're projecting that for some of these other cannabinoids that are going to have an important physiological benefit.
Now, Eric, I want you to touch a little bit on the scalability and cost of these rare cannabinoids, because the industry started to get going, say 3 or 4 years back, but it seemed to have stalled out just because, as you mentioned, nobody is going to be buying health products at $400 a pop, because the cost to produce these rare cannabinoids through biosynthesis and other means was just too high. But we understand that the cost is coming down. Of course, you just acquired Bay Medica because they have some proprietary process that brings the cost down and is very scalable. So can you touch up on that a little bit? Is the industry headed for a big growth period because scalability and costs are coming down that much?
Absolutely, yeah. So, the major cannabinoids, which include THC and CBD traditionally, and now include CBG because they have plants that can hyperproduce CBG, and you can you can extract it quite inexpensively. Those have been the easy ones that people can get inexpensively and put into products. But it's all the other ones, the other 140 rare cannabinoids, that have been difficult. You just can't get enough out of the plant. And if you do, you're looking at $20,000, $40,000 per kilogram, which again leads to, the inability to put those effectively into products. BayMedica is one of the companies out there that has looked at, modern manufacturing techniques so that you can make the molecule that is identical to what you find in the plant. You just, do it in a factory setting where you can control the quality, the consistency, the purity, those kinds of things. And making it at commercial scale is bringing the cost down. Now, there's a lot of people out there who at a benchtop, can have a chemist make a couple of grams or, even 100 grams of some of these rare cannabinoids. But again, that's not commercial scale. So you have to take that now to a commercial setting. So from the laboratory to big industry. And that's one of the expertise that BayMedica has. They have the people who have done that before. They've done it now with CBT, which we launched a few days ago. We've done it with CBC, and we're going to continue to apply that know-how in commercial scale-up. Longer term, so right now those are chemically synthesized, and chemical synthesis is a lot faster to get to market than, say, biosynthesis. But we also have significant biosynthesis expertise. So longer term, as these markets grow, it may justify moving to a biosynthetic process where you could be making tons of this stuff, multiple tons of it, at a very low cost. I don't know that the market's there yet. I know there's several people who are making CBG using biosynthesis. But I'm not quite sure the market's there to justify the investment and the cost in the scale up to metric tons when, people are just starting to buy these products or trying to figure out where they belong. But it's an evolution. It's going to take place over time. I think that, InMed with BayMedica is exceptionally well positioned to take advantage of this first step of launching these and helping people find their place. And then longer term, utilizing biosynthetic methods to bring the cost down even further.
What do you think the whole industry, if you could see like the biggest change from where CBD is today and a lot of other stuff like CBT that you mentioned is today versus say like 4 or 5 years ago? Because you'd mentioned earlier that there was a lot of companies out there pushing real hard as to everything was related to CBD and was going to cure you of depression and stuff like that. The FDA has come down. I don't want to say hard, but they're cleaning up the industry. So if I'm an investor looking at this space, what's changed from say 4 or 5 years ago to make it more promising and more lucrative from a sound business model, I guess, moving forward heading into this year?
Yeah, one of the things is you have companies like ourselves that are, scientific research-based companies developing pharmaceutical products who are getting involved in it and trying to move the ball forward in terms of understanding what these molecules are and where they may be applicable in the health and wellness space. And that's really going to be the market that grows in the short term, very rapidly. And just to put that into perspective, the health and wellness space can be, hundreds of millions of dollars for several products across different usages, whereas the pharmaceutical approach will be hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially billions of dollars for a single product in a very specific use. So it's kind of two different approaches, and it's something that we wanted to straddle the two different worlds because we are experts in rare cannabinoids, and we think they have a place in both worlds. So what's changed? I think that just overall, the taboo is coming off of the term cannabinoid. That still requires some education. Some people think that all cannabinoids are intoxicating when it's clearly only THC and its direct variants that are intoxicating. And now we're dealing with a target patient population or target population, not patients, who are interested in exploring. They understand that these are safe. They've seen that CBD can do some important things. They want to see where these other ones fall in. And the research is ongoing for these different rare cannabinoids, not only by ourselves, but a few other companies. There's some publications out there that people can now rely on to say, well, okay, it's been tested, for instance, in human trials for some of them. And we can understand better kind of what the potential is for these products.
Hey, Eric, do you think the FDA is ever going to step in? I know the CBD has had an issue getting off the ground because the FDA has basically punted the ability to regulate the industry a little bit better and left the rules very ambiguous and obscure, right, in terms of the regulatory environment, and it's kind of left the industry hanging. Do you foresee the FDA, as rare cannabinoids become more popular, take the lead here and issue clear guidelines about manufacturing processes and what could be sold on the retail market?
That's an interesting question. So I wouldn't say the FDA has punted it, but certainly the wave of CBD that came at them has been overwhelming, and they have limited resources like everyone else, so they've had to pick and choose their battles. For those companies who are going out there and saying our CBD gummy cures cancer, no, they're going to get shut down immediately. Like you can't make these wild health claims in the absence of any data. Right?
Was that happening a lot before?
Well, you could check the FDA records. There's a number of companies that have received the warning letters from the FDA telling them that they're offside and they're going to face legal action if they don't stop. But again, that's what we don't want to see in this industry. You don't want to see these overpromises, overreaching, claims about products when there's no data to actually back those up. I mean, that's that's the first thing that's going to everyone's going to shoot themselves in the foot if that continues. But having said that, there are a lot of scientific publications out there that can point in the direction of where these things may have benefit. What hasn't been proven is specific dosing, for specific periods of time in a specific delivery vehicle. That's what we're doing as a pharmaceutical company in a couple of indications in dermatology and ocular disease. So it's a balancing act. You can make these things available. You can demonstrate their safety. There are some groups out there doing some more, public-facing research where they're collecting data on people. So, for instance, if someone's using CBC, they're kind of, they have reporting techniques using your phone to say, how is this impacting you? Is it impacting, how you're feeling, your energy level, your appetite, your, trying to understand, how these are actually affecting people in the real world. So that work is ongoing and it's up and coming, and I think that'll continue. And I think it's important, rather than just throwing these things out in the public's hands, giving some direction as to, why they might be useful in different health and wellness uses.
So big growth. It looks like the industry is very healthy right now and big growth opportunities the upcoming year, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I think this is set to take off. The rocket ship is on the launch pad, so.
It's great. Listen, I appreciate you checking in with us, but we appreciate all the info and all alive and well and healthy in the cannabinoid industry, is it not?
Well, we like where we are. We think that as a company, we've worked hard to put in place all the foundations that we need to build on. Certainly, the acquisition of BayMedica has been instrumental to that game plan. We have not only a great group of people that we've added to the company, we have an extensive patent portfolio, we have a revenue stream, and we're set to launch several new rare cannabinoids into the health and wellness space in the next few months. And so, as a company, we're very pleased with where we are. And of course, the pharmaceutical development programs are ongoing, and they'll continue over the course of the next few years. So we like where we are. We like where we're going.
INM on the Nasdaq, correct?
Absolutely, that's right.
Appreciate it, Eric. All the best in 2022, but I appreciate you checking in this week on our podcast and giving us an update on the industry as a whole.
All right, good to see you guys again. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric. I want to switch to psychedelics. The sector as a whole was down 5% as the weakness continued. There continues to be good news, though, including favorable phase 2 results from Awaken Life Sciences that we did a story on late last week, Ben. Huge TAM, several psychedelic bills introduced. But as it stands right now, there's not one company with $1 billion market cap, not even 850. Ben, does that seem right?
No, it doesn't seem right at all. And we were talking off camera about this, right? And all the great events that you just described, right? Increased TAM going through the roof, right? Now we have, great phase 2 trials from the leader Compass. Awakens had good ketamine trials for AUD. And it's unbelievable. Like, several state senators introducing bills to legalize cannabis or to get research going in their own respective states. So there's all this good news happening in the background, and yet not one industry player is valued at $1 billion undiluted, right? With the shares outstanding. And that doesn't seem really right to me. It almost seems like weird. I mean, we're well past the point where this sector can be considered a thing. I think we have enough research, enough small study research as well to go along with the phase 2s, now entering phase 3s, that it seems to me that although it's kind of just an arbitrary number, it seems to me that you should have at least some sector participants that are over $1 billion. So that's why I'm personally getting ready to make a move and start getting into some of these companies, just because when I see atai at $850 and they have over $400 million in cash, and their investment in Compass Pathways is what, $120 million or so?
Worth $120 million, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their operations, the market's valuing their core operations at like $350 million. And this is like the leading company in the entire sector. So,
mind-boggling.
Yeah, I'm going to start building a position soon.
Are you guys surprised at how low this has become?
No, not at all.
Not at all, huh?
Not at all. It's a lot of retail because it got fed to a lot of retail hands in the beginning. A lot of people thought it was the same as cannabis, that we were going to have this crazy run, and these stocks were just going to go parabolic, and then that didn't happen, and you saw a washout, and now you've just seen it drifting down to the downside for the last 6 months. I mean, I'm looking at names that I was super bullish on that are down 70, 80%. I mean, I'm buying atai right now. I completely mimic Ben's sentiment. It's absolutely on sale. And I mean, the thing with the psychedelic sector is right now, there is research, there's efficacy. And I mean, if any of this stuff is as valuable as we think it is, buying these companies right now, you're going to make a boatload of money if and when something happens. I mean,
now there's a bold statement.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying go out and buy them. Like, this isn't financial advice. But if you look at what happened to GW Pharma in the cannabis space, they got bought for what, $6.8 billion, and that was on one drug, Epidiolex, and a couple of their CBD patents. That was the pure value there. Like we said on the show last week, Eli Lilly, 20% of their $200+ million market cap is Prozac. We're going after Prozac with psychedelics. I mean, if atai hits something, they're getting acquired for between 6 and 10 billion on the small side. I mean,
small,
yeah,
way small.
I'm willing to take that risk right now. I'm also willing to take that risk if it goes to $3. But I mean, I'm building a position right now, not for a short term, for a long term jackpot acquisition in atai.
Now, just to address Compass for a second, I'm not 100% sure about this, but it seems to me that maybe part of the problem here is that they have Compass 360, which is their proprietary blend of psilocybin. And is there enough difference between that and regular psilocybin to really make a difference? Because if you take that out of the equation, really, their studies showed that their psychedelic assisted therapy was a big component of that. So, if you could use psychedelic assisted therapy with regular psilocybin, what does Compass really have, if that makes sense? You know what I mean?
And I think that's a big,
it's the formulation that.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem. I don't know if the psilocybin therapies are actually defensible. I think that there's a big question around that, which the institutional guys are still waiting to see. I mean, I think that you're going to see real efficacy around a derivative of MDMA, a derivative of psilocybin, a derivative of ketamine. One of those molecules that's patentable and differentiated is going to create immense value. But I mean, I think you just said what everyone's scared about. And it's the fact that is Compass's application of psilocybin actually differentiated enough from the regular version of psilocybin to warrant X amount in value, and I think that's yet to be determined.
100%. And when you say the drugs too, that's right. Things like even smaller companies like Mindset are doing, like drugs that are very different, not just different in name or little tweaks here that they happen to patent, but we're talking about like onset offset times that are drastically lower. We're talking about no high versus the regular high that you get with psychedelic medication. So we're talking about vast differences in these patentable things, and I'm not sure Compass has that, but I'll let the market judge.
You need a drug. You're going to need a drug like what Spravato did for ketamine. Like, it's an actual derivative of esketamine that is patented. they took it all the way to commercialization, and it works. And it's differentiated. If they can't do that, then we might be having a very different conversation about psychedelics in the coming future.
Yeah, you talked about some of the rumors or like maybe some concerns institutions related to psilocybin, but one thing we forgot to talk about was news from last month involving Mindmed and the FDA issuing a clinical hold on their initial IND submission related to a phase 2B trial of LSD. And don't look now, but you talk about all these companies that have been hit hard. This was a company that was the centerpiece of the industry at one time, and and still in some ways is, but it's trading below $1 now, like $1.
Yeah,
blows your mind, does it not?
Yeah, it does. It blows my mind. I don't know about you, Anthony, but that's how much things have come off, right? You're talking about a leader, as you said, it definitely throughout this whole time considered at least a co-leader with Compass, and we're talking about a leader being about $500 million market cap, just shares outstanding, maybe even less than that now, and basically a true penny stock. So this is how much things have come down, and this is why I'm kind of getting excited, because the more research I see, I think we're building up a preponderance of evidence, that that the sector is a thing, that there's going to be patented drugs, coming out of this, at least a good chance of that. And yet I see, leaders trading under $500 million with like $170 million cash, like Mindmed. Yeah. And I mean, I thought, you just mentioned, so. I mean,
just to be honest, I think Mindmed went up way too fast. I mean, Mindmed went from
a lot of it maybe
40 cents to like above $4, probably in the span of 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, that was just a rocket ship. Kudos to them. I'm sure a lot of people made a lot of money. I mean, I traded it. I traded out of it. I didn't hold the bag. But I mean, I think it went way up way too quick.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask about psychedelics, and it's a blend, obviously, into the metaverse as well. I had Zappy Zaplin on earlier this week. He's an award-winning filmmaker and was very instrumental in the overall improvement of Lamar Odom's depression related to ketamine. He was on, and there was a couple things that we highlighted, including by 2040, we're going to reach singularity where your brain is connected to the internet while AI is running calculations on it. And Ray Kurzweil, who is well-known futurist and Google chief scientific officer, said that the average person will be 1 billion more times intelligent as where they are today. Based on having your brain connected to the internet on AI, Anthony, as you know, Elon Musk's company Neurolink is beginning trials on humans later this year. First off, before we get into this, whether you believe it or not, and all this stuff that's unfolding, what do you think of all this?
I mean, if you asked any of my friends or my wife, they would all tell you the same answer, that I'm all for it. I mean, I would sign up for Neuralink tomorrow if the
you
trials.
Would.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I constantly am thinking, like, as I'm reading or as I'm typing, it's like we're inputting information into our daily lives. We're absorbing information into our daily lives, and it's extremely inefficient. I mean, we're basically at the mercy of input and output, but from a physical means. If I could take a microchip and plant it in my brain and connect to the internet, or digitize the way that I actually intake information into my brain, and it's not going to cause cancer or turn me into a drone or something like that, I mean, I'm all for it. If I can go learn Solidity or go learn Python programming, like, not to get too crazy, but like in the for instance, from the Matrix, like, you literally take a category, they upload it, and it's basically synced into your brain. I'm all for it. I mean, it might sound crazy, it might sound super futuristic to some people, but I mean, I'm all for efficiency. I mean, if I could be 10 times smarter than I am right now and absorb 10 times more information, and that means implanting a microchip in my brain and being connected to the internet or being connected to some network, I'm all for it.
Do you think when you tie in this narrative of what could happen, translate that? Am I reading too much into it, or do you think this makes it an even bigger opportunity for the psychedelic industry if it proves to be successful?
I think it has absolutely no correlation to the psychedelic industry. I do think that it's dangerous to the point that we already have a wealth gap in society that basically keeps all of the information at the top and nothing gets funneled down to the bottom. I mean, let's be real. If something like Neuralink comes out, or if you're able to connect yourself to the internet it's only going to be able to be accessed by the people at the top. And that's going to just amplify the gap that's already between us. So if it's already exacerbated from an income perspective, imagine how much it's going to widen and be exacerbated from an information perspective. I mean, you literally will there'll be a divergence of society of people that just can't exist. It'll be complete serfdom. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's some very dangerous elements of it, but I mean, I'm all for it.
That's why I'm a little kind of skeptical of the whole trans, that movement. It seems to me that for the human brain is not really meant to access or process that amount of information, that volume of information. But
that's a good point.
Yeah. But,
I mean, I think it's a really good point.
Nice.
Look at what social media and the internet are doing to developing brains now. So imagine if that's amplified times 1,000. And they're just uploading information and learning droves of things. I mean, maybe it's probably might be a collision course with some pretty ominous stuff, but I mean, I'd be all for trying it. And I mean, when you look at space travel, when you look at something like Neurolink, like I'm all for it.
Well, even the metaverse. Sorry to get off topic here, but even the metaverse seems like it scares me a little bit. Having two small kids myself, it seems that a lot of people are going to get immersed into it. Like it's a great idea and stuff, and there's in a way we live in a metaverse if you're doing screen time, if you're doing Roblox and things like that. But it seems like a way, like an alternate reality that some people are going to abuse and get so immersed in it that they're going to forget the real world, right? And not. But
there's already people.
Real world things.
There's already people that are doing that now. I mean, for instance, like I've traditionally played video games, like in computer games, like my entire life. I don't like binge them to where I'm playing them 12, 13, 14 hours a day because I'm a productive human being outside of that. But I have guys like, for instance, like in my guild or like guys in like clans that I was part of that no matter when I log in, they're fucking on. Like they're in there. Like there's been people that have been addicted to their digital life via gaming and via really, we'll say Web 2.0 metaverse platforms for some time. I don't think the metaverse is going to amplify that. I mean, if anything, when I have kids, they're learning computer programming and they're going to be playing Roblox. Like they're going to be learning how to build economies and learn how to generate revenue and extract value from digital ecosystems. Like that is the future. Like as murky as it might sound to be more immersed in a digital realm, I mean, it's just where we're going naturally. I mean, the digital landscape is just growing and growing and growing, and it's not going to slow down. You're either gonna evolve and start to interact with it and start to extract value from it, or you're gonna get left behind.
Yep, 100%. Let's shift to crypto. Bitcoin and Ethereum are crashing. Yeah.
It's a weekly occurrence
below
now.
40. Yeah, exactly. But tumbled below 40 grand, 40,000, excuse me, this week. What's next as crypto investors are looking to exit, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, my take on the market is we got a lot of institutional capital that came in Q4 that drove us up to 4,700 Ethereum, 70,000 Bitcoin. Institutional adoption really started to get price action in it. People FOMO'd in, and then when you saw the Nasdaq roll over the first week of the year, granted we were already well off those all-time highs, but that money was just finished washing out. I think that money probably washed out and brought us to 3,200, which was about 10 days ago. And then Russia came out and said that they were banning Bitcoin, banning mining, and starting to posture up against crypto last night. I think, to be honest, that there's a lot of traders and there's a lot of whales that trade around this news, and they depress markets. They start to liquidate leverage, and then it's got compounding effects. I bought this morning at 27.50 on Ethereum. It's off the lows of the day. It's probably a ballsy move. I didn't really want to make it going into the weekend as we start to see some weakness on Saturdays and Sundays. But I mean, I really do think that we can get a bounce here off the lows. But I mean, I think there is some sort of correction looming in the next, we'll call it 3 to 6 months. I wouldn't be surprised to see an Ethereum price below 2,000. I wouldn't be surprised to see low 30s in Bitcoin, high 20s in Bitcoin. I don't think that's going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, crypto is cycled historically. We just went from fucking $500 to $4,700 in a year. Like that is insane growth for an asset class. It's got to cool off at some point. And I mean, I'm fully postured up to handle that. I stepped
So
back
the
in
talks of
today. I was about
100,000.
70. I was 70% cash before today in my crypto portfolio.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah, it's a
outside of
regulatory thing that must scare people, right? Like,
yeah, but I mean,
the
like we
Russia
said,
thing came out and...
but look at China. Every time China said they're banning crypto, it dips and then it moons. That's not fallacy, it's fact. That's a trend that's occurred 6 times now that they've said they're banning crypto. What scares me is the concentration of miners in Russia, and they want to ban mining. They account for about 11.5% of the hash rate globally. So, I mean, there's going to be an equilibrium that's going to have to set in if they do go and ban mining. Granted, take into consideration, Russia did not outlaw crypto. They didn't make it illegal. They just started the conversation from a governmental perspective.
Yeah. Outside of that, you guys ready for this? You all heard the news. Microsoft this week bought out Activision for $70 billion. $70 billion.
Yeah.
And Satya Nadella came out and basically said this is primarily to advance their entry into the metaverse. So based off of that, who do you like out of the crypto native companies being acquired to add value to their metaverse portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, I'd look at something like Pixel Vault. Pixel Vault's got 9 figures in cash. They've got great management. They've hired people from Marvel, Disney, Electronic Arts. They're building a war chest of human capital as well as cash. Gala Games, Animoca Brands just raised a huge round at a $500 million valuation or something like that. There's Web3 studios and Web3 platforms out there that are ripe for the taking. I don't know if they're really going to go for the acquisition by these Web2 monoliths. I mean, granted, you get acquired by Microsoft, you're in a different realm overnight. Granted, Activision Blizzard's the best in the business, aside from maybe like Riot Games and Take-Two. But I mean, what a lot of people don't understand is Activision Blizzard owns probably the oldest and most mature metaverse out there, which is World of Warcraft. I mean, it launched in 2004. It's still around. There's economies in that game. There's professions in that game. It's ripe for the taking to transition something like that into Web3. And I mean, what Activision Blizzard does have that's very valuable is the game engine that spits all of that out, which I'm really, really curious to see how Microsoft applies that into their metaverse initiatives or into Web3 moving forward.
Can you explain again? I know we touched on it briefly last week, Web3. We're now in an era where you're going to own and actually be able to monetize your own data versus, say, Web2. What's the difference and how does that work?
So, I mean, I own my identity right now online. Like, I own AnthonyVarrell.eth. That's my Ethereum wallet. When I go to your website, I plug in with my wallet. I don't create a profile that goes into your backend. When I do connect my wallet, however, you could make me sign permissions to access my data, which is one thing. But I own all of that data via my Ethereum wallet in a repository. You don't actually own that data per se. And everything is decentralized. Like my Bitcoin, my Ethereum, whatever I own. It's in my wallet physically. It's not me going and putting $100,000 in Bank of America and then they give me some digits on my app. Meanwhile, that money immediately goes and gets packaged up to some derivative or put into someone's mortgage or levered 10 ways to Sunday. I actually own my crypto. That's sitting in my wallet.
So the more that you have within your wallet, the more lucrative your data would then be?
No, I would say
Does that make sense?
No. So the more NFTs that I buy, the more ecosystems I'm a part of, the more metaverse platforms I'm engaging with, that I would say is unique data that's valuable to these publishers.
Hey,
Makes sense.
Off camera, we were talking about NFTs market being hot, despite
super hot.
The plunge in crypto.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit more, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I don't want to sit here and say that you should be buying NFTs as a hedge against the markets and inflation, et cetera. But I mean, NFTs right now are liquid. They're appreciating in value. They're staying pretty stable. All things considered. I thought when we saw crypto roll over and when we saw some of the markets roll over, I mean, I went into my NFT portfolio and I sold anything that I didn't have a high conviction level in, took the Ethereum, put it into cash, and I'm in stable coins right now as far as that exposure goes in my portfolio. But I mean, the Bored Apes are at an all-time high from a floor perspective. There's projects minting left and right that are commanding like super high premiums. The NFT market is booming right now while everything else is flailing in the wind.
Yeah, Serena Williams got involved in it as well. And, this is, best female tennis player to ever live, a proud mother, female empowerment, female movement. What do you think it means to have her be part of the Bored Apes Yacht Club, knowing that she got involved in it?
It's just different audiences that we're reaching. Neymar. Neymar bought a Bored Ape yesterday. Neymar's got a 55 million follower audience on Instagram. Neymar's got a global audience that pays attention to him. He's got that as his PFP right now. He didn't buy it and stash it. He bought it and literally changed his PFP like instantly. Like Neymar is a global icon that people look up to, that people sync with, and that people follow. Once the thing is with NFTs is with these Bored Apes, there's only 10,000 of them, keep in mind. So the more people that buy them, Neymar, Serena Williams, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, these people are not buying them to flip and make some financial gain on it. Doesn't matter to Eminem if he's going to make $100,000 in a year selling his Bored Ape. Eminem and these guys are buying them, and they're probably going to keep them, which is going to keep the supply pretty low, all things considered. And I think prices just keep going up. Like,
you have one, Anthony? Did you buy one?
Oh yeah. I've several.
You have several bored apes of the 10,000 supply.
Yeah, and I've got 4 mutants as well. And the mutants are, I was telling my friends, a lot of my friends bought mutants under 5 ETH, and the floor right now on mutants is around 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
anxious to see.
The ones
that
that
beats
listen to me
returns on cannabis stocks.
Well, yeah, Shad was actually included in that list of people that I told to buy under 5 ETH. And yeah, there were 17 now.
Did you buy, Shad?
No, he didn't.
No comment. No comment.
No comment. You can't win them all.
You can't win them all. Anxious to see how this Super Bowl halftime show will be next week, because some of the acts that you just named and are getting involved in this NFT space, that to me is going to be something I don't think we've ever seen as far as any halftime show before, even though it's a throwback to yesteryear as far as who the artists are.
Oh, they're still all icons. Snoop Dogg, Kendrick
Huge
Lamar,
icons.
Eminem. I forget who else. There's one other artist in there as well. But they're icons. It's very speculative that they're going to integrate their Bored Apes into this halftime show via AR or VR or some medium. But it's pretty much making its rounds around the internet right now to where it's believable.
Dr. Dre, is he part of that lineup too?
Yeah, actually he is.
It might have been Dr. Dre, yeah.
It is Dr. Dre. It's Dr. Dre and Eminem.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of Super Bowl halftime shows, all right. Wrapping things up. So let's recap. Ben, who's your picks? Who you got?
Picks for football?
Yep.
I'm kind of liking the Packers here, 5.5. I haven't done a lot of capping this week. I've been pretty busy, but if I were to look off the top of my head, it would be Green Bay 5.5 straight up on the line.
Straight up on the line. Anthony, who's your pick?
I took, like I said at the top of the show, I slammed the Bengals, I slammed the Rams, and I slammed the Bills. I'm not touching the Packers because the 49ers torched me last week, and I got a little bit of PTSD from that. I basically took my bankroll back to even for the week. I got a little bit too cocky on riding the Cowboys. But I really think if the Bills pull this off and beat the Chiefs, they're probably the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Interesting. I'm going the Rams over Mr. Brady. Is that ballsy or what?
No. Did you see that defense?
I think that defense is insane.
It's
like the Rams are peaking at the right time. They're like what Tampa Bay was last year. They're on a roll.
Dude, OBJ looks like he was 6 years ago. Cam Akers and Sony Michel were running people over. And
Cam Akers, after being out as long as he did, he looked incredible. Again, it is Arizona.
Yeah, those teams win.
It was. I know.
I love the Rams. I would like nothing more than to see the Rams go to the Super Bowl this time around and actually win.
And if you're Jerry Jones, do you fire Mike McCarthy right away?
No.
What?
No.
What did Mike McCarthy do to warrant that?
I think Mike McCarthy needs to fire his entire staff.
Well, I like Dan Quinn. I think Mike McCarthy, as far as time management, was brutal. But
I don't think they should have been in that spot in the first place. Like they should have beat them pretty bad.
Doesn't matter. 12 months from now, Sean Payton's coming back to Dallas. He will be the head coach of the Cowboys in 1 year.
I think that's a pretty good call.
I hope so. All right, gentlemen, have a great week. This has been good. Appreciate the update. I hope all the viewers found this information helpful. Again, this is an investment advice. We'll see you guys next week.
Yep. Good. Have a good weekend, guys.
See you guys.
Take care.